Right, so it was only about time before I made another tier list video. Well, I guess today it would be two tier lists going over the unique cruisers, page 14 and page 14 and two ships on page 16 that apply to the cruisers, as well as the a tier list for all of the actual unique crew. Because just doing a cruiser tier list would be kind of short because there's only like 34 items to go over here, and like glancing or skimming over a couple of these, it's not going to take long to talk about 34 ships. So I figured it'd probably be, besides the fact that it'd be a shorter video, that it'd be a longer video, that going like talking about the cruisers and as well as the unique crew themselves would be, a bit more of an interesting idea for a video besides just, I don't know, talking about random shit with each cruiser. So that's pretty much the video for today, though. This was done as a part of this series of my unique cruiser playthrough, where I didn't upload every single video. I talked a bit about that throughout my process of each video description. I don't know if you care to read that or not, but basically my computer was having issues with uploading some of these recordings. I was able to get like, I don't know, about 30 of them uploaded though, and the rest of them I just kind of, I don't know. I mean, not the rest of them, but like 2 or 3 of the recordings were just corrupted, and I don't really care to go back and record them. I mean, I think, with the videos I was able to upload, I think we can get the point across that the cruises are, most of them are pretty good, and, it's just like, it's playing multiverse, so, it's, to whatever, really. They're missing like 1 or 2, especially like Erwin's cruiser, which I really don't want to replay again. I had a fun time in Asshole's cruiser, though, but that's besides the point. So that's the plan for this video, as I just said. I guess after I upload this, I'll probably have maybe a couple day break. Like besides, like I used my current schedule is every other day for a video, but I think for after this video, I'm probably gonna just take maybe like a 5 or 6 day break. I'm not too sure yet, but when this gets uploaded, I'll take a little bit of like a small break just so I can, I don't know, get my bearings on something else I'm doing in real life right now. But we'll see, because Limit Run shouldn't be that hard, especially because I'm going to be playing the, Limit 1 and Limit 2 first, which are, not bad, honestly not that bad. Limit 3 is going to be absolutely horrible, and Limit 4 is going to be Limit 4, so, yeah, that's kind of it for after this tier list, though. But, since I haven't even started yet, let's talk about the tier list itself, so. It'd probably make more sense to go over the unique crew first, and then go over their actual personal ships. But I kind of just want to go over the cruisers right away, because I feel like I have more to talk about in the cruisers than I do with the unique crew. So, yeah, without further ado, then let's just get into it. So, Asshole's cruiser is basically an auto ship that turns into a crew killing ship. It's kind of like it's a good way to put it. It's like a stronger auto B mixed with a like a standard boarding ship, I guess you could say, because it's actually surprising enough, it is viable to do like boarding with your actual boarding drones, because the ship comes with emancipation grid and external drone booster. And when I did my run with it, which never got uploaded, but when I did my run with it, I got an internal drone booster and I kept my external drone booster. So I did like double boarding drone with double drone booster for my boarding, and that was actually pretty fun run. It wasn't like, again, it wasn't optimal, but it was pretty fun. And again, it's like an auto ship, so it's obviously never going to be horrible. The starting equipment besides drones, though, is a little off. You don't have many system points, like you have basic shields, standard engines, only 1 weapons point for your Pegasus. And Pegasus is good because it's, for the boarding support, but, besides that, it's, not really that great of a damage dealer. At least it's cheap to power and use, though, so I guess that's one advantage. I'd honestly put it like B or A tier. I'll put it A tier just because it's pretty easy to use. It's actually pretty noob friendly, to be honest. And the double boarding drone with double drone reactor booster is actually pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, it is good. It's pretty power hungry, and you have to like basically have like a free win, otherwise you shouldn't be running it. Especially because you can sell drone booster, you can sell Asshole himself, you can basically just transform into a regular gunship and win like that. But you know, if you want to have fun, this asshole's cruiser is definitely going to be a pretty good option. Because, you know, again, like, you don't exactly get the opportunity to run double drone booster for your boarding team, so. I mean, not like you're going to be always boarding with drones anyway, so. Alki's cruiser is probably a C or B tier. I'll probably put it B tier just because if it had, like, if it didn't have the beam that is actually okay at the border support, it would probably easily be like C or D tier. But Alki himself is actually a pretty good crew for this ship as well, because you don't have any airlocks, and you have like basically shell crew to start, which is like they're not especially not good at fighting breaches or fighting fires rather, and they suck even more with the deoxygenation, so, or suffocation rather you could say. So Alki, with his ability to basically heal your crew over time and give them a suffocation immunity, that could be the difference between being able to repair a system or not. You know, especially because you don't have a starting medical system, so, you know, if in like sector 1 or 2 something goes to shit, your run isn't over. So that's the one good thing about the ship. The boarding is interesting though. You get a guardian and 2 shell scientists. Not much else to say for that though. Alcrums is probably A or B. I'll probably put like high B but low A tier. Just because starting without shields is a little annoying, and you don't have like you don't have like much gear to sell off besides I think the stun bomb. I can't remember if there's an augment. I don't think there's an augment to sell, but your boarding team is very good though. The Vampweed, regular leech. I think it's a human medic in there. I'm not too sure, but and then obviously Alchem himself. Alchem is interesting though because he's kind of a shitty crew, but like as like the leech properties of Alchem, he's kind of shitty, but otherwise, he's basically a 100 HP crew with, and he only takes 70% combat damage, so he's basically just a stronger human. I guess his ability to absorb stuns can be an interesting playstyle, but you know, again, it's not really something you want to bank on, especially in a fight. You don't want stuns to happen at all, so you know you don't really want to use leeches to begin with. So that's kind of it for his crew, though. It's pretty generic. It's honestly nothing incredible. Anointed's cruiser is obviously, well, Anointed's cruiser, for the lack of a better word. The Dustbringer cruiser, or otherwise Devrick plus Eneric, it's probably A or B on it. This is actually a really good ship, to be honest. I used to think it was kind of a weird gimmick, but it does work, to be honest, with the new order. Double locked augments can be a little annoying to deal with, especially because, well, you know, they're both locked, so it's, you know, really, you know, pretty shitty on the design side of it, but otherwise, you know, it's whatever, really. Deverick is a really good crew, like really good, and while you aren't going to be like doing Zoltan or Dustbringer suicide boarding right away because you have a med bay, you will be using them to board like properly and just kill off the enemy, and Eneric can make your Zoltan crew very tanky. Maybe not very tanky, but you know, more tanky than just 75 or 65 HP. And that paired with the, I don't know, just ability to use the Zoltans all around your ship is actually pretty good. The new order augment, I think it basically, it works exactly like the Xenophobia from the Elite Rebel ship. It basically just turns your Zoltans much stronger. I think it gives them double power output, increased combat, increased repair, and I think something else which I can't quite remember. Oh, the ability to teleport across any ship as well. That's right. So it basically gives all of your Zoltan crew long-range teleportation, like the way Devrick has his. So yeah, pretty good. It's I didn't have too bad of a time on it. My run with it was a little weird. It was actually kind of shit because I ran into a hazard sector with like the ghosts, which is really annoying to deal with, but honestly, you know, if you get lucky with the ship, it's actually pretty fun to use. Ariane's cruiser, probably like A or B. I'll put like high B as well, maybe even A. I'll put B tier. The cultist fire beam is very cool. It's very good rather, and it's a kind of an interesting feature just because, you know, no other ship really starts with that. However, Lost Sun boarding is it's not very good. It's okay. It's good like when the enemy just can't do shit against your fires anyway. But if the enemy has mind control, or if you know, if the enemies board you, you have to respond to them using your own crew. And the Ariane's cruiser only starts with 3 crew and 2 tile teleporters. So you know you got like 1 rock standing shipside, and like every important system is basically basically 4 or 5 rooms away from piloting. So it's pretty hard to repair shipside. It's a lost sun vessel, which means no airlocks. You don't start with extinguishers, surprisingly, so fires are actually really annoying to deal with. You start with a medbay too, which is actually kind of shitty, all things considered, because you have no way of killing auto ships effectively, besides like carefully boarding constantly, and then hopefully the fire beam is able to break down a system before they, you know, obviously the auto ship is depressurized, so the fire doesn't do as much as it should. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's not too terrible. It's definitely like better than the other 2 B tiers, but compared to A tier, it's just not as reliable as a ship. My run with I can't remember if this by the time I'm recording this video, I obviously have it pre-recorded, but I think it's uploaded. I'm not too sure, but we'll see. My run with it was actually really, like, the early game was really shit because I kept getting enemies with mind control, and Lost Sun commandos will use the fire ability like right away if there's allied crew in the room. So you know it's basically just spawning a fuck ton of fires, and it's so annoying to deal with. You know, no airlocks, rock crew already, and it's not very good early game. You know, eventually, like late game, yeah, it just turns into like just the standard multiverse ship with missiles and boarding, but early game it's like I see like the strength in it with the fire strats, but otherwise I don't know. Plus Ariane isn't a very good crew member. It's just like a slightly stronger Lost Sun Commando. But Lost Sun Commandos are like a very mediocre, decent rock, so you know, it's not like it's a good thing to be a better commando. Billy's cruiser is probably like S tier. You know, it's not like comparable to Anointed cruiser, obviously, but it's got Sylvan boarding. It's got the uplifted burst laser 2. I think as a merchant beacon, as well as the what's it called, like the Hector a store. I forgot what exactly it's called, but yeah. So Sylvan boarding jump 1 is pretty good to say the least. Not much else to say for the ship. I guess the Billy has some good blue options, and the uplifted burst laser 2 is pretty good. It's 3 shots, 2 power, 100% breach chance, 70% fire along with stun. So it's kind of like the only weapon you really need until, well, obviously you can't do much else against 3 shielded ships or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't even matter because Sylvan himself is, well, you know, you're gonna board with Sylvan, so it doesn't matter too much what you have for your weapons. The Orchid Children Cruiser is probably like C or B tier. I'd honestly put it like B tier, but my runs with it were kind of shit, and I'm kind of mad at it. Actually, it was actually pretty annoying to play. But I feel like, I don't know, if you're able to take care of like being able to board with the ship and like having, you know, having anti-boarding because you have no airlocks yet again, this is an okay ship, but I don't know, I'll put a C tier just because I feel like, I don't know, you're more prone to dying in the Orchid Children cruiser than you are going to actually live with it. You start with a morph that's mimicking an orchid child, and then a rock crusader, as well as a solar kernel and 2 clone cannons and a bunch of Orchid Children augments. So the idea for the ship is that you basically go to a store, you sell off both cloning cannons, you sell off at least 2 of the Orchid Children augments. You can keep the last one if you want, but I would honestly get rid of it if you had to. Solar kernel is good for the border support though, and you basically with the other stuff you're selling already, you can buy shields almost right away. So that's kind of one good side about the ship, I guess, is the immediate starting scrap. The power requirement is very tight though. You only have 4 bars to work with. Teleporter takes 1 obviously, and solar kernel takes 2. So it's like, you know, it's kind of hard to play with, but it's overall not too shitty. The Orchid Children, the morphs mimicking it, they have some insane stats though. I don't know if you've ever played with them, but I'm not gonna spoil it too much though. They're just it's supposed to be like a meme, but it turns out Orchid Children boarding is actually pretty good. So, but that's a story for another day. DC's cruiser would probably be like A or B. I'll put A tier just because I feel like my run was pretty good with it. Spectral ships just tend to be really good overall because, oxygen system isn't as important for you as it is for the enemy to have, or to counter rather. And ghost boarding isn't too shit, especially if you have DCS to start. DCS is one of those crew where it's like what's a good way of putting it? He's like super good early game, but the moment you go into you step into the late game against like enemies like that is tanky or multiple crew that you have to fight across a ship, DCS just doesn't have enough health. Even with his lifesteal, he doesn't have enough health to deal with even like an MFK Ace, for example. That's kind of where the other ghosts that are boarding with you come in though. So yeah, I would say overall it's a pretty good ship, but it does take a good amount of time to snowball. You don't start the medical system. The only way you can heal your ghost is by using the Ghoul's fire ability, which isn't terrible, don't get me wrong, but it's not reliable, especially if like the situation goes ass over tit and it's like, the enemy like shoots a missile into like shields or something and you take like 15 hull damage and then, blah blah blah. So yeah, it's still an okay ship, but it's not okay. It's a good ship, but it's still like I would honestly put a B. The only reason why I don't put a B tier is just because the ghost boarding is reliable enough in the early game. If it was like the elite spectral cruiser where it had like non-corp ghost boarding, it'd honestly be like one of the worst ships, one of the worst cruisers. But it doesn't. Your ghosts are actually able to kill shit, so it's not too bad. Dionysius cruiser, probably like A or B. I'll put like low B, like below, like above Alchem but below. Above Alki but below Alchem. So this is basically like the crystalline version of Mantis B. You have no offense besides teleporter, and you have 2 shield layers to start, as well as pretty good boarding crystal wise. Combat damage wise, when you're actually boarding the team, it's not like Mantis obviously because you're dealing with crystals, but the sabotage is very good with the lockdown, and if you don't get too unlucky in the early game, and if you're able to actually get Cura, matter of fact, this ship is actually really good. Not foolproof, of course, like any other ship really, but it is pretty good for what it does. Dianish is also a really good crew, as a crew to have anyway. So the gimmick is supposed to be like you board with Dianish and the Wraith, not the Wraith, the Mare, and when you pop the Dianish's ability, it basically turns the Mare's breaching ability to happen like I don't know, every 4 seconds or something like that. And I understand how that can be good, but it's overall just better to board the rest of the crystals, end the fight sooner by killing the enemy quicker, and just moving on with your life in the run. So, I get the gimmick of it, but it's, the gimmick is suboptimal, so, I play to win, so I don't really care how cool the ship looks. Well, I do, but I don't really. Beacon Eater's cruiser is honestly A tier. I used to think it was worse just because like how cramped it is and just the gimmick of using Eater for boarding. But if you're able to assemble a good boarding squad and just solve the issue of Eater, being present in a ship that's very cramped with no airlocks, it can be okay, the ship. Your starting crew's actually batshit crazy though, with a human soldier, Lanius welder, and a separatist. That's pretty good for blue options and, well, just crew to have. What else is there to say? Clone Bay, which is pretty okay. And, a recon drone, which is, if you don't get cured, a recon drone is basically your only hope of having a good anti-boarding. Otherwise, it's surprising, because usually the Lanius vessels they're usually pretty roomy, they're kind of big. But for some reason, Beacon Eater's cruiser is really cramped. I don't know how else to describe it. Just the systems are just really close together and the layout's shit. So, you know, that's kind of the reason why Beacon Eater on his own ship kind of sucks. Unless you put him like somewhere like doors or something where he's out of the way. But even then, it's like, you know, I don't know. It's kind of hard to play with him, but it's not too bad overall. It's still a really good ship if you're able to assemble a boarding, because Eater himself with the welder is not really enough DPS past like sector 3, even with the oxygen depletion, because I don't know, just, you know, you're only dealing with 2 crew for your boarding, because you're obviously you're not gonna board with a human soldier, and the separatist dies within the presence of the welder, so it's not like you're gonna be boarding with 3 crew on the Beacon Eater's cruiser. Ellie's cruiser is probably C tier, maybe even like D tier, but I'll put it C tier just because someone will probably get mad at me. But Ellie really sucks at the bloodlust version of herself. Stefan is really good, but Stefan can't fight, and the only way you can hull kill ships is using the mine launcher. And well, obviously you can't really hull kill a ship properly if you have a teleporter and crew that can actually fight. So it's kind of redundant, but besides the point. Ellie is, yeah, like sure, the first 2 sectors when you're only dealing with like 2 or 3 crew, and you only get like 1v1s with Ellie, sure, yeah, she's great. But the moment you go against any enemy that has more combat damage than just, I don't know, 1.5 times, as well as just dealing with multiple crew, you know, Ellie attacks very fast, sure. But Ellie's only a human, you know, 100 HP to work with. And when she goes Bloodlust, you can't control her, and the Bloodlust really sucks. So, you double damage, but you can't control her. You can't even move her into melee combat. You know, she'll basically stand at range and just deal double combat damage, which really sucks. Because again, you can't control her. I guess the layout can be okay, and the starting equipment is okay to sell off as well, because you have the med bomb, which is like extra scrap, or a lab upgrade if you want, and the co-op juice is like, my god, like one of the worst augments. At least you can sell it though. Like Ellie's cruiser would honestly be like F or D tier if co-op juice it was locked, but thank god they, you know, the developers weren't like that. I don't know, I don't even know a good word to describe that, but at least the augment isn't locked, so thank god. Freddy's cruiser is honestly like A or S tier. I'll put S tier just because I feel like it's probably the most newbie friendly boarding ship you can have out of anything in this list. Actually, okay, maybe Jerry's cruiser, but Freddy is probably still really good. It's just like free Mantis A, but stronger overall. You don't have mind control, so you have another system to work with. You have hard light bypass to start. Freddy, which, you know, Freddy's pretty fucking good to say the least. I should stop swearing really, but what else is it to say? The layout is okay for the ship. I guess you do start with kind of low power and low system upgrades. Like you basically start with like the bare minimum, but it snowballs very well. I mean, at least my run with it was pretty good and easy. So I don't know, it's just a really well-rounded ship. Because Freddy, I mean, if Freddy wasn't there, it would be a whole new story, but, you know, it's Freddy's cruiser, so. Haynes is probably like A tier. I think it's like, out of any cruiser you're gonna unlock like, first, this is probably one of the first cruisers you would unlock. Just because of how, like, out of any unique crew to get, Haynes is probably one of the easiest. Tuco is maybe up there too, but Haynes is like, I don't know. The militia encampment is a very common green sector, so a common unique green sector, I should say. But yeah, the boarding is okay with free Mantis and Haynes himself. Haynes is like better than Ellie for sure, but not by honestly much. Especially like, you know, past sector 3 when the range damage is not enough to compensate for, you know, Haynes' 100 HP. Especially you can't deal with Mantis at all. Or spiders even. But yeah, you do start with like good system upgrades and everything else. Plus you have an Orchid and a Medic, which is a lot of good blue options. At least on the Orchid's part. And you do start with good weaponry, a charged laser 1 and a chain heavy, which is 3 shots to start with, as well as boarding. It's definitely not too shit. And then you have an augment to sell, which is, you know, like more scrap to have for your ship. Owen's cruiser is probably like Dear F. It's probably one of the worst cruisers, one of the worst ships in the game as well. I'll put a D tier just because it's not like a limit ship, I'll say. But it is very, very horrible. Like, where do I even begin? I guess I'll talk about like the boarding aspect. So, honestly, it would actually make more sense to just ditch the boarding with Erwin and the Ranger and only board the Commando, just so we have some way of actually sabotaging a system. It's so like stupid, like of how awful the ship is. Erwin is such a bad crew. He's basically like a human, like a mantis that can't sabotage, but he can't really fight that well either, because again, he only has 100 HP and his tranquilize ability is actually kind of shit. Like, I mean, against like crew that deal more combat damage, yeah, I guess tranquilizing them can be okay. But I remember when I did my run with Erwin's cruiser and I had to tranquilize like Crusaders and rocks, it actually was really bad because I still had medbay for my boarding, so I basically had no medical system on my boarding. And when I was losing the fight, because I'm fighting rocks, I'm gonna lose the fight with Erwin. The Ranger was fine, but Erwin's dying, you know. So I had to basically teleport away. But because I had tranquilized the rocks, they were actually able to move quicker, because tranquilize makes all crew in the room have their stats set to like a basic human, just like a ×1 multiplier. So basically, it makes the rocks have a stun. They have a stun immune. They don't have a stun immunity anymore. They take fire damage and they have less health, but they move way faster. And I think I was like fighting like an Inquisition scout, or I forgot the exact the Rock Elite layout that has like a really weirdly placed medbay. But I was gonna win the fight, and well, obviously something happened, and I had to teleport my guys away. But because I had used the Tranquilize ability, they were able to run and get to the medbay even quicker, and all the damage I had done to them was completely redundant. And not redundant, but it was completely just healed all the way back up, because the Crusaders were able to run to their medbay, you know, with their one-time speed. So Owen is just such a bad crew member. It's actually not even funny. And the ship itself just it's so minimalistic. It's got a beam that does jack shit most of the time. Like, one system damage could be a difference in the fight, but honestly, it's really not. The level 3 teleporter is it's so stupid as well. Shields 1, engines low level, not enough power to power everything either. Leech, which is just like yeah, might as well add a leech in the mix. Because why not? Yeah, it's crazy how bad the shit. I hope Erwin's cruiser gets buffed somehow, or Erwin himself gets buffed, because my god, the ship is just it's so annoying to play. It's honestly like horrible. I did not have fun playing it. Like, I played the Orchid Children cruiser was definitely like overall it was like maybe like a less like the ship itself has a lesser win rate compared to Erwin's ship. But Erwin's ship is just, oh my god, it's like comparing Stealth B to Stealth C. So in vanilla. It's crazy how awful the ship is, but I already dedicated 5 minutes to talking about this ship, so. Jerry's cruiser is probably like S or A tier. I'll put A tier. The only reason why is because if you do have a shit early game, and if you get like unlucky and you go against an enemy with mind control, and Jerry, you know, just basically ends the fight in the enemy's favor, yeah, it can be a pretty awful time. But you know, if you have a way of stopping Jerry from turning on you with his, you know, pony and his gun and his magical gun, I mean, you know, it's a good ship, but I mean, that's about it. It's just Pony Jerry jump 1 with, you know, boarding, so that's about it for the cruiser. Kazakh's is like B or A. I'll put it like maybe high B. Yeah, high B. It's basically just like a worse Freddy's cruiser. Maybe even like a worse Mantis cruiser overall. I guess Kazakh is okay as a crew member. He's a strictly stronger Mantis, and his ship, the ship itself is okay in terms of like system upgrades and whatever. But you really need crew on the ship, if anything. Actually, you need like two things. You need border support, you need crew, and the third alternative thing, like instead, if you can't get crew, you have to get more system points. So you have to get a shields like 3, shields on engines 5, all kinds of crazy shit, just so Kazakh actually has a chance at winning the run. And yeah, it's like if the enemy doesn't have doors and you can just like kite the enemy until you can slash using Kazakh's ability. Yeah, it's not bad. But the moment the enemy has like they has like doors, or if they roll a ship with like a lot of weapon power that can hurt, yeah, the ship is not shining anymore. Especially because of its ugly ass paint job on top of that. The Lizard Cruiser is probably like A tier though. It's just like, I don't know, like the Lizard take on Freddy's Cruiser, for lack of a better word. It starts with the flak, cloaking, Metnut, and Gunput, which are pretty good unique crew as a whole. I mean, Gunput's like a kind of bad. I mean, not really even bad. He doesn't really do much most of the time with his ability, but Metnut can be a very interesting gimmick, depending on, I don't know, the fight you're in. But yeah, besides that, yeah, it's still a very good ship. I mean, the Lizards aren't horrible to use. They're basically like, I don't know, just slightly weaker Mantis. Not by much, honestly, not by much though. Knights Cruisers like A or B. I put it like high B tier though. Nah, I'll put it A tier just because it's Knights. The only problem with Knights Cruiser really is that, okay, Knight's Cruiser is really good at sabotaging, but, once Knight's ability is over, he's just a generic slug that ignores doors. Ignoring doors is good, don't get me wrong, but, he can only do so much by himself, because you have to use, you can breach oxygen, you can breach their weapons, take them down, like, within, I don't know, like 10 seconds with his 5 times sabotage damage, but once his cloak is over, the fight isn't over, he still has to kill the enemy somehow, so, it's actually, like, it's a boarding ship that can't really crew kill that well. So, but if you don't want to crew kill and you just use Knights as as intended, it's actually a really good ship. So, yeah. My run with it was okay. It was annoying to play, but it was all in all, like, annoying. What we call it? Annoyance isn't really a factor to consider when playing a ship. It's just like a fact of the matter: is this ship good or not? And yeah, Knight's Cruiser is definitely not too bad. So. You start with shields and cloaking, which is very interesting compared to like the regular knighted cruisers, which have just cloaking or just shields, rather, either or. But Knight's Cruiser has both, so the ship itself is actually okay. Urban's, what the hell did I just say? Urban's Cruiser is like probably on par with Anointed, but because it's not Anointed, it's not gonna be on par, so. Let's go through the rundown. So you have a Hermes for border support, yeah, recon teleport, hardlight bypass, 3 Obins, and a really good layout as far as ships go, as well as system points too. You actually start with a good amount of shield, not shield rather, but you have a good system buffers like on top of everything. I think you have a shields 3, sorry, like shields level 3, not 3 shield layers. I should clarify. What else does this say? Yeah, I mean, if you go, if you're able to go to the guild territory and get like get the 4th Obin, it's a lot of DPS. It's honestly like pretty incredible how powerful it is to have 4 Obins in one boarding squad. But I mean, it's basically, this is the only ship that can possibly do that. So, I mean, but that's besides the point. If this could be the only ship that could ever do that across the entire multiverse, literally, and it still would be like S tier. So. I would put it below Sylvan, but you don't need Sylvan. I mean, he's cool. We don't need him, so. Uja's Cruiser is like A or B. Probably like A. Maybe like low. I'll put high B, low A. Nah, fuck it. I'll put A tier just because of the Malform is on board. If you're able to get medical system early enough, it's actually a really good ship, especially with the boarding. And Uj is a very, very, very powerful crew. Like, he's probably on par with Anointed. I used to think Uj was kind of like mid-tier-ish, but Technopaths and Ancient Drones, as well as just mimicking other kinds of drones, it can go pretty hard, pretty quick. Like, hard in a good way, I should clarify. And yeah, also the crew space on the ship is what, it's like 32 crew, so you can basically get like what, 31 director drones in a dream. It's not too bad. I did not record, actually this is Spider's Queen, the giant alien spider nest. I didn't record a video on this like within the last month, but it was like, I think it was like 3 or 4 months ago, I did do a video on this cruiser as a request from someone else on the channel. So, I was going to think about replaying it, but when I did play that ship a couple months ago, I did do it on hard extreme, so I figured it was, you know, didn't really make much sense to replay it. It's probably A tier, though. Now let's put B tier, because I'm dealing with spiders here, even with the queen. If you're able to get the second queen and have one queen board and have one queen ship side, you can use spiders pretty well, but if the queen is absent, because she's going to be, if she's going to, you know, because you're going to board with her, the ship side can be really, really funky, or finicky, rather, to use. At least the queen is very good, though, as, you know, a crew itself. And being able to control spiders is fine as well. Titanium system casing is interesting. I can't remember if it's locked. I don't think it's locked. And respirators is kind of funny to sell and get more scrap, but I think the highlight is the cruise. The two highlights would be the cruise space and the bomb for border support. You aren't able to kill all the ships, obviously, unless you want to sacrifice like a hatchling or something. But the bomb is very good border support. It's basically just one of the most reliable. If you're gonna crew kill a ship, the bomb is probably one of the best ways, because you don't really need the fence scrambler, and if you're gonna board, you have some way of actually killing the enemy without the bomb, and the bomb just helps the fight go much smoother. It's really possible to kill any enemy without that kind of board support, but you're also more prone to just dying in case of, like, I don't know, you get an unlucky dodge, teleporter goes down, you still have a med bay instead of switching to clone bay, and yeah, your spiders are basically stranded. That can always happen, so the bomb, you know, kicks into action and does something for you. But yeah, that's besides the point. It's still a good ship, mostly because if the queen wasn't there, I mean, you know, well, if the queen wasn't there, it wouldn't be the queen's cruiser, but you get what I'm saying. Ruins cruiser would be like A or B tier, probably A tier. It's just a stronger Danish cruiser, pretty much. Stronger boarding crew. Ruin himself is a very good crew member. The layout isn't too horrible as far as crystal ships go, and the border support isn't bad. Not much else to say for the ship, I guess. I can't remember. I think you start with a human, ruin, rock, and a crystal. So basically you can board with ruin, crystal, rock, and have the human just stand around. Actually, is it a human or is it a medic? I think it's a standard human. If it's a medic, that's cool too, but, you know, that's not the point of the ship. Slot nugs is honestly like A or B tier. I'll probably put like A tier. If you know my channel and if you've watched my videos, yeah, I don't like mind control, but this is like the one exception with like slot nug boarding along with his stun. The mind control could be the difference in the fight, in the early game at least. Plus, the cerebral overcharge with Slot Nug's passive ability heal is actually pretty good. The only downside of this ship would be like I guess the non-existing medical system, which is actually okay for Slot Nug, I guess. And I guess mind control, but mind control is still fine. It's not great, but it's, you know, it's something that you otherwise don't have, so it's fine. Slot Nug is also a good crew. I don't think I mentioned that, but Slot Nug is a good crew to have. Symbiotes is like probably C or B. I'll put like high C tier. So the Symbiotes cruises is kind of like the other cruises that have like, I don't know, 2 unique crew instead of just 1. He's got Tony and Symbiote himself, obviously. Again, it's another mind control boarding ship, but this is the one time where the mind control actually, like it literally helps you. Because you're not going to board with the Symbiote, obviously, and you're going to use Tony because you have nothing else to use. And the mind control is the difference between having 2 boarders or not, because you teleport Tony and then mind control, obviously. And Tony's honestly isn't too bad of a crew. The only downside is if, well, obviously, like, the fight isn't winnable by Tony's I don't know, Tony standards for being able to kill other crew. But that's besides the point. I think it has clone bay. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it should have clone bay, which is honestly kind of incredible, but whatever. Two ghost cruisers, honestly like S or A. I'll put A tier just because it has mind control along with boarding. But Tuco with 2 outcasts to board with, along with a Vampweed if you care to use the Vampweed, is pretty good. Just because the outcasts become like Suzerains, pretty much, along with, you know, Tuco's passive ability, the outcasts stacking each other, excuse me, and the mind control, which, you know, works for cerebral overcharge. Yeah, not too bad of a ship. Tully's is probably like B or A. It's just like a stronger Federation cruiser overall, and obviously Tully is there. I'd probably like maybe like A tier. Just because it's probably one of the best gunships out of anything in here. I mean, there's only so many gunships. There's like, I think there's only like 3 cruisers that don't have a teleporter out of everything in here. And one of the cruisers that doesn't have a teleporter is still a boarding ship, regardless. So, what was it? Lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, Tully's cruiser. You start with 3 elites besides Tully. You start with a warlord, peacekeeper, and a soldier. And your artillery beam is actually an elite beam instead of just a standard 1 damage beam. It's the elite, so that's also pretty good. It can't be upgraded to level 5 like the elite Federation, but it still can be upgraded to level 4. And it's, you know, again, it's the elite beam, which does 2 damage, very very long swipe. So yeah, not too bad. It's actually the one ship I would consider upgrading artillery on, just because it's actually good. I did it for like my Nexus run, obviously, because, well, it was like my only option for silver and shield removal, but that's besides the point. Turtle's cruiser is like, honestly, it's like a C tier, but it's probably my favorite cruiser just because it's like NGA, and NGA is a very popular, well, I mean, not popular, but it's a very favorable cruiser just because of the way it works. I guess the ship side, it can be very harsh because of no airlocks, and all of your crew are not very good at manning stations. They're much better at fulfilling jobs like fighting borders or repairing, especially with the separatist. But besides that, yeah, offensively the ship is okay with heavy ion and the beam, and along with hacking. If the ship didn't have hacking, it would be a completely different story. But with hacking, it's alright. You also do have a lot to sell off. You have a lot of gear starting off too. You have Medbot Dispersal, which is extra scrap. Drone Arm, which, like, you'd keep for the early game, obviously, until you're done using drones. But past the early game, you could use it for a drone run. And then Heavy Iron is an okay weapon. Two-Doors Cruiser is probably like B or C. Probably like low, nah, it's like C tier. It's just like, it's like an Ergen B. Except just, what? Like, stronger by what metric? Barely? Yeah, barely stronger. Two-Duo is a very shit crew, as just a leech to have. But at least you have the Rock along with 2 Emperies, so it's not the end of the world, I guess. But it's still not very good. At least he has a crew space of 9. What? Is it 9? Yeah, it's 9, so I guess one more crew member to work with, along with a 3-tile teleporter, it's fine, but yeah, the rest of the ship is just, it takes so much scrap and so many, like, resources to snowball. Because if you don't get better boarders, you basically have, like, a rock boarding with 2 humans that have 90 HP and don't do anything special besides, well, you know, funny, drain 1 power and do else jack shit. Vortigaunt's cruiser is probably, like, B or A. I'll put, like, low B tier. Vortigaunt is a really good crew member, but again, mind control boarding is just so redundant, and I mean, you know, the ship only starts with Vortigaunt, so you kind of need something else to go with, you know, Vortigaunt himself. But otherwise, yeah, it's fine. Vortigaunt can 1v3 crew very well, in the early game at least. Past, you know, when they have a medical system, and you don't have board support, you know, shit changes, but, you know, besides that, it's a fair cruiser. And then with its cruiser, I mean, I don't know why I really included it, I guess there. It's not the anointed cruiser, but sure. So that's it for the cruiser tier list. I'm not sure if I really rushed this. Nah, I didn't really, but there isn't really that much to talk about for the cruisers, to be honest. I'm not really talking too much for the video because I actually like use a lot of like, I don't know, time and effort talking about the ships in the descriptions for each video. So I will say before I go on to the unique crew, if you do have like further questions, you can ask me in the comments. But if you want to see like my specific runs with each cruiser, I've uploaded almost all of these. The only ones I haven't uploaded are the Irwin and the where is it? I don't know where the hell is it? Whatever. Irwin and Orchid Children. Those are the two ships I did not upload. Oh, and Assholes. There we go. And Asshole ship. So, if you do want to see something besides that, though, what the hell did I just say? Okay, we're going back to the original train of thought. If you want to see my specific runs of those ships, check those out. They're on my channel. Uploaded less than, I don't know, a month ago by now. And, yeah, whatever you want to see from me, just, I don't know, say it. But now we're going to transition to the unique crew tier list. So this is kind of pretty much going to follow the exact order of which the unique crew, cruiser tier list followed, because, well, you know, alphabetical order. But that's kind of it for everything else. I guess I can talk about unique crew a bit more in depthly versus the cruisers, because it's, you know, crew to talk about, crew to use, and more situational, maybe. I guess so and so. But yeah, without further ado, Alki is probably, I used to think he was really bad just because shell scientists are not very amazing on the overall as a ship side unit. But with his ability to be on piloting, it's honestly like A or S tier. I'll probably like A tier just because, you know, we got other S tier crew coming up. What should I say? What should I first thing I talk about? I guess I think the main thing I like to do with Alki is that Alki can install the labs for free, and the shells have a lab upgrade that makes them telepathic and, well, effectively just turns them into slugs, at least like ability wise, and blue option too. So basically with Alki is that Alki isn't really gonna fight crew because he's not really tanky, but his ability makes everyone else like so powerful with the HP regeneration and suffocation immunity. We can basically do the Alkis. You can put him on piloting, and with his telepathic ability along with his active ability, you can basically have him a pilot that actively helps everyone else without actually having to intervene and like help, you know, other crew. So with that ability in mind, he is pretty good. Plus he's also, I don't know, just cool. He's a shell, so. Alchem is like B tier though. He's just a slightly better human. I think I talked about it already, but he's like 100 HP, takes 70% combat damage, and absorbs stun, which isn't like too bad of a gimmick to absorb stun, but you know, you don't really want to get stunned anyway, so not like you can use leech boarding. Anointed is my wife, so she's gonna go in S tier, obviously. Anaric is like B or A tier. I'll put A tier. You know, Anaric is like one of the crew I actually don't use a lot. I actually don't even know all of his stats, to be honest. I know he's a monk and he won't attack, but I forgot his active ability can blow up, but he's it's like the reverse of like the standard like blow up and kill shit. It's like the blow up and make shit. I think it gives crew in the same room more repair speed, resistance to hazards, HP regeneration, and maybe some other stat that I can't remember. But yeah, he's kind of like he's just a Zoltan monk without the pulse ability, which kind of sounds bad in theory, but Anaric otherwise is still very good. You know, it's a Zoltan that won't attack. He focuses on repair, and you know, if ass goes off a tit, you can use his ability to give your other crew an advantage, which isn't too bad of a gimmick, at least as far as his other crew go. Ariane is C tier, obviously. It's just a lost sun. Not much else to say. I mean, I guess the firearm ability, along with stripping enemy fire immunity, that can be interesting to play with, but I don't know. It's not really that relevant most of the time. I mean, it might be, but in my runs it wasn't, so... I guess at one point it was, because I had to fight ghosts, and... Well, obviously, if I'm fighting ghosts in my own ship, I'm going to be losing the battle just by the suffocation, so... Fire in that case kind of helped, but... I mean, really didn't, so... Billy is just B tier, or maybe even C tier, honestly. He's just a slug that can go into his box. I will say, though, that it's interesting because, most of the unique crew will come with max skills. Some of them don't. Like, I'm trying to remember. Like maybe Freddy, Anointed, Alki, and Alkram, rather. But Billy's interesting because if you get him as a pilot, he's really good just because he's a slug pilot that'll come trained. And it's not like he's going to be fighting crew because he's a standard slug, you know. He's not like a Hepta employee that'll automatically go into his box, but, you know, his only like gimmick is just he's fearful as shit, so it's not like you're gonna use him for much else. I would put him C tier, but you know he's fine. He's a slug crew, so DCS is B tier, just a slightly better ghost overall, but nothing crazy, obviously. Devrick is pretty good though, probably like high A tier. The double melee damage, 2 power, provides 2 Zoltan power, or just power, I guess you can call it. Long range teleportation and the ability to explode all Zoltans can be interesting if you do Dustbringer boarding. If you pair him with Alneric, he's pretty good to say the least, but yeah. Dianish is like A tier though. It's just like a Sentinel, but better. Not much else to say. The actual lockdown, like the shorter cooldown, isn't really that important, especially with a crew that have like an ability that, like, you activate the ability, they have like a duration and then the cooldown. It's not really as valuable because she only affects the cooldown. She doesn't affect the duration any. Which is actually kind of a good thing and kind of a blessing in disguise, if anything, but she only really helps crew that have like only a cooldown, like for example like the Mayors I talked about on her ship, or maybe like Gunput or Pheromones, maybe, but yeah, that's besides the point. Ida is like C or B tier, probably just B tier because he has more applications besides eating beacons and kiting crew with his ability to, you know, drain oxygen. He's got 200 HP, 2.5 sabotage damage, instantly drains oxygen, which is okay for kiting and anti-boarding, but for boarding it's kind of, I don't know, okay, I guess. And then the eating beacons is probably the best part of him, late game at least. In the early game, it's not really good actually, because the resources you net out of eating a beacon is dependent on the sector you're in. It's medium scrap and high fuel, but the medium scrap depends on what sector you're in. So and there's always like a 1 in 5 chance that the beacon eater will cause a double fleet pursuit. So in the early game, it's like it's not really worth using his beacon eating powers because obviously like, you have a chance of doubling the fleet for like what, 8 scrap and like 5 fuel. You know, it's just not worth it. But like maybe past like sector 5 when it becomes like 30 scrap and like 5 fuel, yeah, that's kind of worth it. But before then, it's like his ability to eat beacons doesn't really matter too much. He's otherwise a pretty good crew though. When you have other anaerobic crew. If Ida's the only anaerobic crew and everyone else needs oxygen, he's not very amazing, but you know, he's still like whatever. Ellie is probably D or C tier. I'll put C tier just because she's just a human that's like barely better than in combat, but by like literally like no aspect. Like I guess extra combat damage, extra combat speed rather, is okay, but otherwise it's just a human. Freddy is easily S tier though. He has multiple good stats, so like I can run through him real quick. He has more movement speed. He has 2 times base combat damage, which is very good. It's basically like a free mantis without the pheromones, with the pheromones rather. He takes less combat damage, like I think 0.7, the same as a bishop. And he has 1 times repair speed. So he's actually like he's strictly better than a human. And his ability to activate the pheromones of other allied mantis is very good. Nothing like nothing like absolutely game breaking like the Anointed, but still very, very good. I would honestly have a ship full of Freddy if I could. Gunput's like a B or A tier, probably just B tier because, I mean, yeah, he's a better tree lizard, and his I guess active / passive ability to provide a 25 HP replenishment that can be interesting to play with, but honestly, it's nothing too incredible. I'd rather have Metnut than Gunput, but that's just me. Haynes is a slightly better human with the range combat damage. Owen is a worse slug. Fuck Owen, actually. Jerry is a slightly worse human, but I think the only reason why Jerry isn't D tier is probably because you can eventually turn him into Gun Jerry, and just because he can eventually turn into Gun Jerry, I'll put him like B tier. Actually, I'll put him B tier. I don't know, just because otherwise he's like, I don't know. The combat damage doesn't really care. I don't really care too much because it's not like I'm gonna be boarding with Jerry. So until he gets his gun, if he gets his gun, yeah, I guess he can board. But before then, if he doesn't have his gun, he's not boarding. So it doesn't matter if his combat damage is weak or not. Kazak is probably he's just a stronger Mantis, nothing else really. His slash ability is good. His passive ability to deal, not his passive ability, but one of his attributes is to deal 2.5 combat damage, but for each ally in the room, it decreases by 0.15 additively. So if there's a 4-tile room and Kazak is in that with 3 other allies, he'll only deal 2. I think it's like 2.1 or 2.5, which is still very good. Obviously, that's a direct buff from a Mantis, but he loses value the more allies you have. Not by a lot, but it's value to be lost. So Menya is like A tier though. He's just a better lizard. His active ability does come into play very often with the increased sabotage. If you can lock down a room or prevent enemies from stopping you from sabotage, his sabotage ability can be very good because his the ×2 sabotage buff is it stacks on top of what your crew already has. So for example, if you have ghost boarding in Metnut, all of the ghosts are going to be doubled sabotage on top of their already high sabotage. So it can get pretty crazy with Metnut, which is why I think he's honestly A tier. Plus, he just has good stats even without the ability. Knights is A or B tier, probably high. I would say okay, how about just for Knights, if we're going boarding and we are going sabotage strats, easy S tier. But because the game isn't all sabotaging, it's be high B tier. Just because the only application besides sabotaging is the fact he can ignore doors. Otherwise, he's just a standard slug. So it's not like it matters too much. Obin is high A tier. He's a really good rock crew member basically. He's got suffocation and resistance, really good HP, I think 250, and his active ability for salt is really good, at least when fighting enemies. Plus, he's good at countering slugs. That's the reason why the clansmen hate him. But besides that, yeah, he's definitely a solid crew member. Ooge is what I talked about before. He's one of the best crew. Even if you can't get Technopath directors or director mimicked Technopaths, he's still just a really good crew. He's a significantly stronger human. He takes less damage from all sources, and he's really good at kiting crew. And even if you don't have Technopaths, you can still make other morphs, and regular morphs are still fine to use. So. The Queen is an A or B tier, probably right around Kazak's level. He's basically just I don't know, since you're not gonna do spider boarding, I mean you shouldn't at least. The Queen is still good just as a unit to have. High combat damage, relatively high health, good speed. With lab upgrades, she can become really, very violent, but that's besides the point. Owen, what the fuck? Ruin is probably A tier. maybe B tier. Probably A tier just because he's like a barely weaker Danish, all things considered. And his ability is actually really good to lock down, regenerate, and ignore the lockdown itself. That's not too bad. I think he has increased health. Not by a lot, though. I think he's like 200 HP, while Danish is like, I don't know. Actually, no, sorry. Danish is 175, and I think Ruin has 150. So about basically like a rock, effectively. The suffocation resistance is very good, and, well, I mean, Ruin is just, you know, he's just like, crystals are good crew, so it's, you know, having a buff to your crystal crew isn't bad. Sotnog is like A or B tier, probably like A tier, all things considered. His passive ability to regenerate nearby allies can be good. It could be the difference to winning a fight or not, you know, depending on what crew you are fighting with or against. And the stun ability is very, very powerful, to say the least. It's a long ass stun, and it only affects enemies. So, yeah, not too bad. Stefan is like an A or B tier, probably A tier. Her passive ability, she's basically just like one of the best ship side crew. Ignores enemies, repairs faster, immune to stun, provides a passive bonus for all of the crew to kill and repair faster. So she's basically like a slug pilot. She's got like the same mindset as Alki. She won't really do stuff, or really he won't really do stuff on his own, but he'll provide the buffs for everyone else on the ship to do their own stuff. And with that in mind, she's really good. He, I don't know. I mean, I guess technically it is a he, but the actor he once played is a girl. So Sylvan's S tier though, just a slightly different anointed, not by much. Symbiote is like I guess like a B tier. I mean, it's just a rock and a Zoltan combined. It does actually nothing. There's no like debuff to the symbiote. There's actually just literally a rock and a Zoltan combined. And I guess the one stat difference between like symbiote and just anything else is the very low stun. It's the very high high stun resistance. It's like what 0.15% stun I don't know, resistance, I guess you can call it. So he basically takes like no stun at all, which can be interesting, but I don't know. He's just I guess the one thing to mention is that he's affected by both the lab upgrades for Zoltans and rocks. So you can basically give him the overclocking and then give him obsidian skin, which is basically turns into like 100 HP crew that provides 2 power. That's not too bad. Tony is like C tier though. He's just a leech that's like slightly better. Not by much though. Tuco A is a stronger outcast that moves faster out of combat, deals more combat damage when in combat. He has slightly higher health, and with other outcasts he can become pretty powerful. Well, really just he makes all of the outcasts along with himself powerful, but that's besides the point. Tully's like easy A, maybe even like low S tier, but I'll put like A tier just because you don't get Tully that very often. The bomb ability, the Federation Strike or whatever you want to call it, that's pretty good, especially depending on the boss or enemy you're fighting. But otherwise, he's just like a slightly better like elite crew, I guess you can call it. I mean, he's don't get me wrong, he is unique crew, but he has basically the stats of just a standard elite. Very low suffocation and fire damage, but like 1.5 combat damage, 200 HP, and the allies in the same room move at the same speed of him, and like in unison. So it's, I don't know, it's kind of a funky gimmick, but he's still very good. Tetzel is like a slightly interesting defender. His shield ability is very good, but the other stats of him are kind of ass. I guess doubling repair speed can be interesting, especially if other crew that are good at repairing. But besides that, it's nothing incredibly impressive. Tudor is like just a worse leech by a lot, and Vortigern is it's interesting because Vortigern is like basically a Crusader that has that active ability to make him very violent, but also very prone to death if you're not careful. So it kind of goes both ways. Also, I wonder, does anyone know like what this bulge in his right hand is? I was looking, I was making this tier list like yesterday, before I, prepared for this video, and like, what is this bulge in his right hand? Like, if you look at the Crusader sprite, he doesn't. The Crusader doesn't have this. There's like this thing. Like, do I have a reference? Let's see. Here we go. Where's the Crusader? So you see the Crusader, like, none of these other rock sprites have that, like, weird-ass hand thing, right? Not even the Paladin. But suddenly Vortigern has this, like, bulgeous right hand. Like, I don't know, what is that? Is that a shoulder? Is he doing, like a K-pop pose? I have no idea. But, yeah. Vortigern is still fine. The increased combat damage is good, along with the in his ability, obviously, as well as the self-regeneration. So he's basically like a Crusader that turned into a rock, turns into like a mantis. So he's pretty good in that aspect. Well, he turns into like 2 mantis because of 3 times combat damage, as I mentioned. And the last thing, but not least, we have Wither. I mean, Wither is just an obelisk that has long-range teleportation. So it's like, just if obelisks are A tier as a crew, I mean, what's on with Wither is going to be S. I mean, I guess the best application of Wither is that the only way you can get him is if you play its cruiser or if you go true ending, and with his long range teleportation, you can bait mind controls, like by sending him through the super shield and just basically baiting their mind control, which for boarding is kind of a big deal, but for in general it's not crazy, but it's he's good. Plus with Wither, if you go true ending and you don't have boarding, it doesn't open up killing the 8th royal transport if you're able to, well, like actually kill it, disable the royal weapons and stop them from killing you and running away. But yeah, Wither is pretty good. Just long range teleportation is just a strong aspect. He just stats of a regular obelisk, health of a rock, damage of a mantis, and immune to fire and suffocation, so definitely not bad. So that's the tier list, pretty much. I mean, cruiser and unique crew. I'm tired, obviously. It's close to 3 AM, and I really should not be up. I should sleep, but I decided to make this tier list because I'm bored. So, if you have any comments or questions, rants, disputes, or I don't know, if you just disagree with me and think I shouldn't make another tier list ever again, comment that below. I mean, I don't know if the last thing applies, but if it does, surprise me. And yeah, that's kind of it for today. It's kind of a relatively short tier list compared to the other two. I mean, because we're only dealing with like 60 items in total, while the other two tier lists had like, I don't know, crazy amount of shit going on. So that's it for now. Then I actually had a lot of fun playing all these cruises, but now it's time to move on and do other stuff. So past these cruises, once this video gets uploaded, as I said, I'm gonna be taking kind of like a week-ish break. Not for absolute certain though. I might change that. I might only change to like a 3 or 4 day break. 3 or 4 day break instead of like a whole week. But we'll see. Regardless, in either case, after that break is over, I'm gonna be playing the limit ships. I'm gonna try and do a regular ending on all of them and a true ending on at least limit 4. But don't quote me on that. We'll see. I'm just gonna win with all of them, and then we can move on and see what else we got going on with the limit ships. That's kind of it for now, though. Yeah, I guess after the limit ships, which could be like by next month. No idea. I mean, it's like already like what 1/3 of the way into summer, and I feel like it's been I just graduated yesterday. That's it though. So if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. If you disagreed with me, like the video regardless, but comment your opinion below. Will definitely read it, as Anointed tells me to read it. And yeah, that's it for today. So thanks for watching and take care.